Cavaliers team plays outside at Klockner. Opened the season in the indoor practice facility against Colgate. Took to the road trip the last 2 weeks against Richmond and Stony Brook.
This might be the best weather we've had for lacrosse games since last year's Final Four in May. So 65 degrees, great for the fans, great for the players.
I don't think anyone's complaining here on this Saturday afternoon.
Chase Van running with that midfield, but you really see 5 attackmen from Virginia with Ryan Dunkel, who's been injured a couple years. So that's the matchups.
Dunkel dives and he tucks it in.
You know, we talked about Ryan Dunkel and the impact he could have in this offense. They said they've run 5 essential attackmen, you know, 2 running obviously as midfielders. But Ryan Dunkel is going to get a short stick most often, and that's a good matchup for him.
Just 46 seconds in, and Ryan Dunkel, Superman, takes off, avoids the crease, and tucks it past Dash Lamity.
Well, just able to get inside the Hopkins defender. He was just able to get just enough space by beating Quentin Kill.
Goaltender for Virginia.
You know, one place that Virginia has struggled early was in the goal. Started Jared Merritt against, you know, Colgate and Richmond, and eventually they switched goalies in the middle of the game. Kyle Maher started against Stony Brook, maybe didn't see as many shots. So, you know, this is his first start in terms of a really competitive game. And Kyle Maher started 2 playoff games in 2024, so he has the experience.
His first career win in his collegiate career came against Johns Hopkins.
And that was a playoff game.
Shot there and a goal. Virginia strikes again. Just going straight to Cage, and the Cavaliers lead 2-0.
Well, that's the transition that you get if you get the ball out of bounds. You know, Virginia obviously did not, you know, do a lot of switching in the transition, and just came right down the middle on a bounce shot, left-handed. You know, a big goal right there to start the game. 2 early goals for Virginia.
Hudson Houseman, the sophomore out of Greenwich. Brooks English.
Again, so much invert, short against short. Good defense right there, but again, Hopkins is looking for Hunter Chevette with his big left-hand shot.
Jeff for 91 in black. Eiler at X. Morris comes out. Eiler's got a wide open Cage and he sneaks it in. Avoids the crease and scores. Charlie Eiler gets Hopkins on the board.
Well, again, Charlie Eiler just made a nice decision. Again, one of the things you're going to do is you're going to force the defense to turn their heads, and that's exactly what they did. And he just made a quick decision. You can see he just is able to win the race to the pipe. Gets inside right there. And, of course, Kyle Morris trying to come out of matchsticks, not able to get there in time. So it was a decision that, you know, Kyle Morris made, comes out, so like you said, empty goal.
Eiler, the junior, with his 6th goal of the season, scored against Carolina.
He was the #1 lacrosse recruit in last year's class.
Interesting, the Millen brothers combined 17 goals between the 2 of them. That's 34% of Virginia's total goals this year, coming from the Millen brothers. Taking the handoff, bouncing this one just over the crossbar. That was Ryan Colsey who took the shots.
Yeah, Ryan Colsey from a great lacrosse family. Of course, his dad is in the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest midfielders in the history of Syracuse, and his younger brother's playing at Duke.
Roy Colsey, All-American at Syracuse, was his high school head coach at Ridgefield High School in Connecticut. Colsey steps into it, bounces a shot, and snipes the goal.
Ryan Colsey is a dominant left-handed kind of sweep attackman who did play midfield in his first year, so he's comfortable dodging from the top. And again, he just got the step. The slide was late, and he was able to put the ball under the freshman goalie, who Coach Millen is very high on. But you know, tough start for Daslan.
Up Broadway, feeds out Dunkel. Millen using the screen of Dunkel. In the slot, shot just wide from Brendan Millen.
You know, Virginia moving people around. You know, you're not staying static in an attack midfield look.
Dunkel wraps it around and nets another. Deja vu for Ryan Dunkel, and the Who's lead 4-1. Well, how about that goal by Ryan Dunkel? He can't be stopped, Doug.
Well, like I said, he went through a couple years of injuries, but #3 recruit in the country his year from St. John. So big goal, 2 big goals early.
Black, 99, unnecessary roughness, 1 minute.
So here the penalty, 1 minute against Dash Lamedy.
All right.
Moves the shoulder all the way back there in the defensive end.
The ball had, as I said, was already well out of the box. Must have been a contact or maybe a high hit. And again, sometimes that trail official is picking up on those fouls.
Colsey bounces a goal in. Virginia was 30% on the man up this year, and Ryan Colsey strikes for his second on the afternoon. Who's the lead by 4?
Well, you're asking your backup goalie to go in on an extra man with no warm-up, and that's about as tough an assignment as you can give a goalie, is to have to go in so early in the game. It looks like they're waving Galinas on. They're going to go ahead and let him stay.
So Oren Galinas will stay on, the senior out of Waltham, Massachusetts.
And Galinas did start.
So Hopkins gets it back after a moving screen. Galinas floats it over the midway points. Hopkins touches it into the box. 6 shots for Johns Hopkins so far, going for just 1 goal. Compare that to the 9 shots for UVA for their 5.
We really haven't seen Kyle Morris be tested yet. I'm sure Hopkins in their scouting report wanted to make sure that he had to make saves.
Hunter Chavette dodging on the freshman Verville, and a shot there. He nets a goal. How about Hunter Chavette, like a magician? Now you see him, now you don't.
Well, there's no mystery about the ability of Hunter Chavette to clear his hands and shoot that left hand. He obviously came in with 10 goals, but again, just the release, his ability to drop his stick. It wasn't as if Kyle Morris didn't see it. He just maybe heard it going by, but that's a huge goal for Hopkins from Hunter Chavette, who's one of the. He will benefit, 1, from the extra man, but 2, with the 60-second clock, they get essentially a restart. And so right now it looks like 58 seconds left in the first quarter. They can hold it and start the quarter with a couple extra seconds on man up.
So Liam Burke, the guilty party, he'll take a 30-second knee in the box.
That's 30 seconds, right?
Virginia goes back on the man up for the 2nd time this afternoon, converted on their 1st attempt. Entered in 30% on the man up opportunities. Down low, shoveling this one, 5-hole and scoring. Brendan Millen with the highlight reel goal.
Yeah, Millen to Millen. Obviously McCabe at the top. Brendan just a front swing sneak, and instead of turning and shooting, runs a little shovel backhand shot right under. So again, just everything working for Virginia in the first quarter.
How about Brendan Millen, the consensus #1 overall player out of high school a year ago? The freshman. That's his 8th goal of the season.
So, Hopkins gets a chance to, get one back, get their best 6 offensive players on the field. Again, look for Hunter Chavette to be in that shooting spot.
6-on-4 advantage for Johns Hopkins. Chavette on the far side, a Hopkins team. 62% on the man up this year. He's in it for a second. They'll get a full 30 more seconds on the power play. Chavette takes a shot, goes top shelf, and scores. Hunter Chavette, his 2nd of the afternoon, and Hopkins cashes in on the power play.
Well, I'm not sure that was off the play. Hunter Chavette just went out and picked up a ground ball, and because of the tightness of the defense for Virginia down 2 men, so much confidence in his outside shot. Some coaches would say no, but with Hunter Chavette, you say yes, and so he has 2 from inside 10 yards and kind of hits Peter Morris in the chest, but that's what Virginia's been lacking.
Now Morris, 8 saves against Stony Brook this past weekend. He's got his first true save against Johns Hopkins on this Saturday afternoon. And midfield scooped on up by DeChico.
Hopkins looking for a foul right there. Probably missed one.
Colsey with some space, and he capitalizes. You give Ryan Colsey an inch and he makes you pay for it. It's a hat trick for Ryan Colsey in the first half.
Yeah, a lot of action right here between the boxes. You know, I saw the coaches kind of raise their hands looking for a foul, and you don't get the call, and Ryan Colsey picks it up and finishes.
All starts with Kyle Morris making a big-time save. The goalkeeper passes it over to the transition team, and how about Ryan Colsey? Throw the hats off, a hat trick. Who's leads 7-3 in the second quarter?
Save.
Finding a cutter, and Kyle Morris holds his ground right on cue. Second save on the afternoon for the Baltimore, Maryland native. Now Virginia goes to clear, touching it into the offensive box. With some space, Houseman at X. Hands it off to Brendan Millen. True freshman, #1 player in the high school ranks entering this year.
Yeah, when you see your goalie make two big saves, you know, really one-on-one against outstanding shooters, it not only gives your defense confidence, but it also means your offense feels comfortable.
Leaping up and scoring 5-hole, McCabe Millen. 8th goal for Virginia, and it comes from their team leader in the goal department.
It's all about distribution, Braden, and that's what Virginia's had so far on offense. You know, you've got outstanding offensive players, but you don't want it to be through one player or two players. And you look at Colsey's numbers, now you've got McCabe Millen. So Virginia's offense looked like, I think people expected them to be deep and
wide as Millen. This one skips out of play, staying with the home moose.
You know, Hopkins felt maybe they had a chance to get the ball. Pretty close at the end line. Again, it says balls will go out in the alley that are the tough calls for the official. A lot of times this official in front of the box is the one making the call on shots on the sideline.
So the Cavaliers retain the offense. Team averaging just about 47 shots per game. And how about this one? Finding the back of the net. Chase Bands.
You know, he's a player that Virginia has talked about. You know, again, hurt last year, and he sometimes becomes that, you know, that third midfielder when they run those 5 attackmen as a group. Big goal for him right there.
And just dropping the angle, Chase Bands netting his first of the afternoon, 5th of the season for the junior out of Potomac, Maryland. Had his first career multi-goal performance against Stony Brook last weekend.
You have to kind of, you know, gear your defense towards certain players. And here goes Meyer winning it clean.
Freshman Fogo off to the near side wing, pass just high of McCabe Millen. Such a lethal Fogo. The number 30 in the UVA Whites. Griff Meyer, 5th in the ACC in face-off winning percentage.
Well, to win the face-off ahead, there's the 10-man ride right there.
And this one goes all the way in from the mid-line. Liam Burke with the Hail Mary of a goal catches UVA sleeping on it.
Well, when you go with the 10-man ride, which you see so many times, the goalie becomes the 10th rider and comes out of the goal. And so, in some ways, the only shot you're going to get is from your defensive end, and he put it right on Cage. A lot of times, you know, the ball goes over the end line, but that was a great goal. And we just talked about, you know, maybe a game changer or a momentum changer, but you could just tell by the excitement on the Hopkins bench and on the field, you know, that was an important goal to get back from 9-3 to 9-4.
First goal of the season for the in front of the cage, trying to find Dunkel on it. Colsey, he's pickpocketed. Short stick moves it. Reese DeCecco into the box. Far side wing. Step up to Ayers. Now Chavez. And the long pole knocks it loose.
Yeah, Hubert's kind of from behind. Not sure that he saw it. And now he got Virginia on a break with a long pole.
Tommy Snyder. 2 poles down. On to the near side. Millen takes the shot, goes top shelf and scores. Brendan Millen finishing off the tic-tac-toe. And the Who's in double digits.
Yeah, it started the defensive end with a check from behind on Hunter Chavez. I don't think he realized that there was a defender behind him. And when Virginia ran the break, it was a 5-on-4 with 2 poles and 3 attackmen. Brendan
Millen off a great find behind the back from the long pole of Luke Bublitz. And a great sequence ending with a goal for number 7.
They change their matchups.
Balsamo the swim move, working on McDonald's. And X using that right-handed screen of Balsamo. Give and go. Trying to find a sliver of an opportunity. Now working on the long pole and Kilryan. Band takes a shot and nets another. Pipe up the crowd, Chase Bands. Who's the lead 11-4?
Chase Band comes out of the roll dodge and finds McCabe on the backside through the defense. A great look to the offside pipe and just really a layup right off the side of the crease. So everything working for Virginia.
True complimentary lacrosse right there. Band feeds it down low to McCabe Millen. And team lacrosse by Virginia right there. Band's fired up, Millen's fired up.
Yeah.
Smith, shot there just wide from Chavez.
Such a great shooter, you know, gets those things on cage, pretty much unstoppable. He's just a little bit off today.
Sixth shot for Chavez on the afternoon. The guy that entered play with a 32% shot percentage. On the higher end for this Blue Jays team. Cross it along the near side wings, makes a nice swim move. Broadway dishes out to Cullison. He winds up, shot turned away by Morris. He loses the ball, and this one is kicked in. And the refs give him the goal.
Yeah, Brandon, a garbage goal counts as much one in the upper corner, and that's exactly what you get. You get the ball on the ground. Morris doesn't control the rebound, makes a nice big save, and Hopkins converts off the loose ball in the crease. Yeah, that's. You get the first save right there, and again a little bit of a hockey goal right there. But again, good job right there, winning the battle on loose ball. I was not quite sure if it hit a Virginia player, but you know, stats are lifetime achievements. You know, you look at basketball, football, all those sports where stats get you in the Hall of Fame, and Doyle gave stats credibility, and he also made them consistent, and now they're used in every college game in all three divisions, and that's a contribution that was one of those off the field, but just as important to the game.
Some high to errors. Hopkins maintains the offensive possession. Chavez loads up the shot, goes 5-hole, and nets his third. Hunter Chavez strikes again, keeping Johns Hopkins in it in this third quarter.
Yeah, the first two high, and I think he was trying to maybe play a little guessing game with Kyle Morris. Kyle Morris may have expected that shot to go in the upper corner like the first two, and the shot go, what I call a worm burner, right under his feet. You know, everything we talked about with Hunter Chavez, we've certainly been right, because you know he can score, and you know he's pretty much carried the Hopkins offense today with 3 goals.
And last year's Doyle Smith Cup set a career high 5 goals.
Face off, he gets it up, he gets the possession, he gets it to his wingman. You know, and that's something that you know Hopkins needs, is wins at the X with the face-off man.
Matt Cullison's been kept at bay so far. Number 16 in black, 1 assist, 5 shots. The guy we highlighted in the open. 3-time All-American. First time a Blue Jay's done that since Paul Rabel.
Yeah. As soon as he starts a run, you know, Virginia's already, you know, coming in his direction, starting to break down to come and slide.
Shot there and
Another
netting
shot.
the top corner. Give it to Brooks English, and the Blue Jays have struck for back-to-back goals in the third.
Yeah, that's the first time they've gotten 2 in a row. And again, it all started with Collison dodging from behind, getting the defense to move a little bit late on the recovery, and Brooks English, who has really been their top feeder with 7 assists, sticks one high on Kyle Morris.
Second in the Big Ten in assists per game, and English has just his 2nd goal of the campaign. And it comes. Ryan Dunkel dodges near sides. Feeds it on over to Sunderland. One more pass. Shot there, bounced and stopped by Jelinas.
He's been sharp. I mean, you certainly can say that, you know, he's had a very good period of time to get himself set, get his warm-up at halftime, and you know he's kept Hopkins in the game, made it closer than it certainly was in the beginning. 7
saves for the senior. In transition, one more pass, Chavez, and he adds another to his total. Hunter Chavez cashes in, and the Blue Jays have struck for 3 straight here in the third.
What a pickup by Hunter Chavez. The ball was thrown at his feet, and in just one motion, he was able to pick it up, you know, while he was on the run. But if you watch the replay, he's essentially, you know, almost counts as a ground ball and a goal. As you can see right there, the pass was a little bit low, and with his great hands, you can see he's able to, in one motion, control the ball and
skins black. Matt Collison sees it along the midfield.
Yeah, he's getting the short stick.
English winds up a shot stopped by the big spoon of Kyle Morris.
That's a big save for Kyle Morris because momentum was definitely going the other way.
In transition, Who's with some momentum. Fighting off the double team is Mac Till. Millen with some space. The long pull. It's Hublitz. Passing over to his fellow long pull who bounces it in. How about a pull goal for Tommy Snyder?
One of those rare goals, Braden pole to pole. You know, sometimes you see a pole to an attackman or an attackman to a pole, but you get two poles, and Virginia encourages that. They want their poles to stay involved. They want to force the other team to have to, catch up, so to speak, and not run off the field and give teams the chance to get their defensive unit on.
First career goal for the sophomore out of Bayshore, New York, Tommy Snyder.
Team unsettled right now. Turnovers, not really being aggressive on the goal. Hopkins has taken the momentum away at both ends of the field. Virginia's way too early to be playing. Let's hold on to the end.
Lawson gouging his way on Houseman, the defender. Short stick on short stick.
Houseman with one foul today.
Collison, the assist, faking high, going low. It's Jimmy Ayers, and Hopkins cuts it back down to a 3-goal deficit.
And we got a flag after the goal. See what we've got. The goal should be good, and we'll just see whether or not, contact with the goalie usually results unless there was a push from behind. We'll see what the call is. Let the official make the call for us.
So you can hear both teams expressing their emotions with the call. Ayers gets the goal on it. It's a 12-9 game, and the push is waved off. They say it was after the goal. John Calhoun passes out through some traffic, scrum for the ground ball, and it's scooped up by Hopkins and Eric McDonald.
Yeah, the one thing you don't want to do is throw inside. You don't want to throw to the crease where all the sticks are. You want to keep it on the perimeter. Might have been open, but if you don't handle it clean, that's what happens.
Chavette slows it down. Hopkins still trails by 3. Blue Jays have both timeouts to work with. And the possession. Here's side English. Over to Chavette. Slides out, takes the shot, and adds another. Who else but Hunter Chavette? His 5th of the afternoon.
Every goal's been a little bit different. I mean, that was almost a quick stick with on one motion. He catches and shoots and gets it gets right under the feet of Kyle Morris.
For the 2nd consecutive year, Hunter Chavette strikes for 5 goals against Virginia. He's keeping Johns Hopkins in this. Who's still lead 12-10, 5:30 plus to play.
Certainly, makes this game what it has been. It's kind of a testament to Doyle Smith of the kind of games that Hopkins and Virginia play.
Not a rich history between these two schools. 100th all-time meeting. Collison, he's been kept at bay, working on the long pole, using the screen.
Collison is, again, a marked man. He doesn't get a chance to beat a double team very often. As soon as he looks like he's going to go, he gets doubled.
Now Brooks English slides off as the pressure applies. Ayers in the slot, goes top corner, and adds a goal. Jimmy Ayers cannot be stopped, and it's a 1-goal game here at Klockner Stadium.
Yeah, that was a classic. One more goal right there to English. Virginia's trailing right now, a little bit of indecision on when to go and when to recover, and so they right now have the Virginia defense arriving late on shooters, and they're finishing, and you've talked about, the job that Galinas has done. Kyle Morris has done a serviceable job, but, the last couple Hopkins goals, there was just no chance. And
straining lines are broken. Either side has it, and it's Johns Hopkins that comes away with it.
They're 3-on-2.
With numbers, Chavette to Ayers. One more pass, shot, and a goal. Calhoun, right place, right time, and we are tied in Charlottesville.
The extended ground ball, Virginia had a couple shots at it. Their offensive end couldn't make the scoop. So the ball bounces to Hopkins at the offensive end. 3-on-2, and Hopkins converts. So all the way back.
What a time for your first career goal, Wari Calhoun. the junior out of Baltimore, Maryland, in his 19th career game, nets the equalizer here in the fourth.
He was on the face-off unit in the midfield and stayed in the play. And so now, if you're Virginia, all of a sudden, are you going to play tight or are you going to go ahead and play relaxed?
Here's the facilitator there. 4 minutes of the afternoon. In the offensive zone, Jimmy Ayers with it.
We're down to 3 minutes.
This is why rivalry games stand the test of time. Hopkins and Virginia, all tied, final 3 minutes. Cullison, far side, dishing off to Rawson.
Yeah.
English, dodging on the short pole of Burtz. One more pass and Chavez, another goal. Ties his career high 6th goal, and Hopkins leads for the first time today with 2:37 to go in regulation.
Excellent look by English right there. Came in as their #1 assist midfielder, and again a perfect through pass. You got to know where Hunter Chavez is, and he doesn't necessarily have to be on the perimeter, right on the corner of the crease. A through pass, and right now Virginia's defense, Hopkins does if they want to play keep away.
Hopkins has scored 9 of the game's last 10 goals.
Yeah, we're down under 30.
Rawson has it on the far side, makes a move on Burtz. Passes it behind the net at X. It's Charlie Eiler. Hopkins has played a near-perfect second half. Outscoring the Hoos 10-4, make it 11-4. Matt Cullison, we haven't called his name all day, and in the biggest moment of this game, he strikes to give the Blue Jays a 2-goal advantage.
And he cut. He really is not shown any off-ball cuts, and in that situation, he cut off ball and finished. So two goals in a minute 20. All the pressure on Virginia.
Take another look at it. Cullison goes to that strong side, banks it home. The first 3-time All-American in Blue Jays program history since Paul Rabel.
And it was a couple years ago.
What a run by the visitors from Baltimore, Maryland. And Kryzak wins another faceoff. Knocked down to the ground. Hoos with the numbers. Shot by Millen, just wide and out of play. Hoos have not scored in the fourth quarter.
Hopkins looked for the push, didn't get it.
Quick offense needed for Lars Tiffany's team. Millen, spin move, trying to work on the short stick. Defensive midi and DiCecco. Long pulse lines over for double team. It's Carson Brown. Right in front of the net, and this one slammed home. Truett Sunderland, another guy we haven't called at all tonight, and he adds a goal to make it a 1-goal game.
Yeah, Hopkins made the decision to commit 2 guys to Brendan Millen because they were subbing through the midline and did not have 5 on him, offense to 6. And he was able to beat the double team and feed Truett Sunderland, who, as of today, had not scored a goal. So now we're back at X with 58 seconds.
10th goal on the year for the senior attack, former Calvert Hall. And that will do it. Johns Hopkins down but not out. This game went on a generational run to stun the Wahoos of Virginia here at Klockner Stadium, and the Doyle Smith Cup stays home in Baltimore for the 3rd consecutive season. How about that 10-2 run to end out the ballgame?
All the credit to Hopkins. All the credit to Coach Milliman and his staff for keeping his team in the game, not letting them kind of lose heart. And obviously for 2.5 quarters, Virginia was the best team. And for the last quarter and a half, Hopkins was the best team. And that's how the games were decided. And I'd say we got 2 MVPs certainly for Hopkins in the goal and Hunter Chavez.
This is why this rivalry has stood the test of time. The 100th meeting between Hopkins and Virginia, and it's for games like this where anything can happen. Throw the records out the window, throw the standings, everything else out the window. It matters. 60 minutes on the field. Orange Gelinas, a generational performance for the senior in net. He's getting hugs from his teammate.
As he should.
12 saves to turn away this Virginia team. And Doug, your final takeaways from what was a crazy 19th edition of the Doyle Smith Cup.
As good a game as I've seen between Hopkins and Virginia, that says a lot. And once again, Hopkins can stand tall, big win, and they can take the Doyle Cup back to Baltimore.
Third consecutive year that Johns Hopkins keeps the Doyle Smith Cup back home at Homewood Fields in Baltimore, Maryland. There is the cup right there, the 19th all-time meeting in the Doyle Smith Cup, and Hopkins has a lot to smile about. Virginia, they led for a lot of that first half, but again, just the last, what was it, 15, 20 minutes just kind of fell apart there as Johns Hopkins came all the way back. What went wrong on Virginia on the flip side of that?
Yeah, I think Virginia got a little bit tentative. They didn't really attack. You know, when they did get to the goal, Galinas made save after save after save. And really, I didn't think Kyle Morris played badly. A lot of the late Hopkins goals were really right on top of him. And you've got to get, again, you talk about Hopkins and you know, the stars come out at the big times. And it was Hunter Chevette, Collison. And now I think, you know, Hopkins certainly has a starting goalie they have confidence in going into next week.
I have a feeling this is a win that the committee might be looking at come Selection Sunday for the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays. Well, that's going to do it for